Hey, Matt. I'm Matt. And, yeah, today I'm going to talk about football. I've noticed that, for some reason, my videos that people like the most or dislike the most, I don't really care if something I say upsets you. That's why last year I went after Alabama fans. And Alabama. So, but yeah, football. Football is something I passionately love. I played for 9 years. I technically had a partial scholarship, to play football at a small Oklahoma school that it was their first year to have a football program. And I joined the Marine Corps, which I had already enlisted in the Marine Corps. So, yeah, I've played football. I've watched football. Every male in my family, on my dad's side of the family, played football. When I was a little kid, I would go to my cousin's house when I was playing pee-wee football. My cousin is older than me, and at this point he was, I believe, he was in high school. So let's just say he's bigger than me. I mean, dude's built. I'm the shortest male in my family, on my immediate family, cousins and stuff, on my dad's side. But, yeah, and I would go, when I was playing pee-wee football, go over to his house after school, which they weren't far from us, and in full dress, I'd be riding my bike in full uniform, or practice uniform, shoulder pads, helmet, everything, riding my bike over to his house. And we'd go in his front yard, and he had one of those blocking shields. And I would take off running at him full speed, and he'd run towards me, and he would hit me. And they had a pine tree in the middle of their front yard. He would hit me with that, and I would go flying, slide underneath the pine tree, hit the trunk, and come running out and want to do it again. So, yeah. And when I say football, I played football. The highest level I ever did was high school, state of Oklahoma, 6A football. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say that I was a genius and football genius and all this and that. And in fact, when I was younger, I wanted to coach. I'm just telling you why I feel that I can talk about football. Let's talk about college football playoff. I did a Facebook post earlier, and I was wanting to do a YouTube video on it about how this was weeks ago, well before the first selection committee thing came out, but I said that the teams in the college football playoff would be Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and either the winner out of Michigan and Ohio State or a second SEC team. That's just how I believe it's gonna be. Because Notre Dame has the rest of their schedule is cupcake. And at that point, it was cupcake. And they've almost gotten upset a couple times. But in Alabama, I mean, they're playing, East Mississippi Girls State for the Blind. They're playing them this week. So, yeah, the SEC, to gear up for the SEC championship game, they all schedule out-of-conference games with schools that you've never heard of. I mean, never heard of. So, and that's like in the full playoff hunt, SEC championship hunt, all that. At the end of their schedule, they schedule cupcakes. Intentionally schedule cupcakes. Out of conference cupcakes. So, And of course, if you're an SEC fan or an Alabama fan, you're going to come on here and say, "Whoa, you schedule. They're playing Kansas." Yeah, we're playing Kansas this week. That's also a conference team. Okay, they've been in the conference for as long as I can remember. OU's been playing Kansas in conference for as long as I remember. And if I'm not mistaken, the SEC does have some conference teams that would have trouble beating Conference USA or the Mountain West, teams. So, but yeah, there also was a time when Kansas was very good with Mangino. And we are playing Kansas, but it's also a conference game. And then you go, well, who do you play? Chip Kelly led UCLA team out of conference, which next year we're going to be playing them again. Also played FAU. That was FAU won their conference. Yes, they're not in a Big 5 or Power 5 conference, but FAU won their conference. It was on, I believe, a 10-game winning streak at the time. And I believe last year they finished in the top 25. So, also, the FAU team had Alabama's previous offensive coordinator as their head coach. So, yep. And then also an Army team. I'm never going to disrespect any one of the service academies. Not going to do it. I spent 7 years in the Marine Corps. And for one thing, those guys have height and weight standards. Not to mention, I mean, you got to think, football is when they get their break. They start way early in the morning, and it's ridiculous just the fact that they're able to field a team with the height and weight restrictions. So I'm never going to disrespect any of the service academies. Never going to do it. It's a big honor to play a service academy. That's honestly how I feel in my heart, and I'm not just saying that because we had to go to overtime with Army. So that's not why I'm saying that. Okay, it's just I'm never going to disrespect any service academy team. I'll disrespect Alabama and their schedule. Yeah, I'll do that. Playing East Cupcake State. Or what did I say? East Mississippi Women's School for the Blind is who they're playing. I'm never going to disrespect that. Also, let's see, if OU even has a chance to get into the playoff this year, we have to beat the current, I believe in the AP poll, the current 6th ranked team, OU's 5. We'd have to beat the current 6th ranked team in the nation twice in 2 consecutive weeks. That's, unless OSU, Zero State, beats West Virginia. And then it'll be a I don't know. There's like a bunch of math involved, and I think some trigonometry and geometry and written essays and handshakes with money involved and all that. I don't know who would make it in there if OSU beats West Virginia and OU wins out. I don't know who OU's opponent will be. I have no idea. And I've heard that if OU beats Kansas this week, we are locked. If OU beats Kansas this week, we are locked in to the Big 12 championship game. If West Virginia wins this week, they are also locked in. But if West Virginia loses to Zero State, I have no idea what would go in, because I think you'd have a 3-way tie between, or I don't know if Texas isn't even in it anymore. I don't know. Iowa State would jump in, which Iowa State's very good team, coming to their stride right now. So if you want to be like, well, Iowa State, you play them too. Yeah, didn't they narrowly lose to Iowa on their first game of the season because their first game of the season actually on the schedule got canceled due to weather? So I don't know how that would work. And they took Iowa, which is a big rivalry game. They played them tough. So I don't know. But yeah, I have no idea how that would happen. But I said it last year and I'll say it this year. I honestly believe that the playoff system we have now is broken. I mean, it is absolutely broken. Okay? My personal opinion, it needs to be an 8-team playoff. I mean, go ahead, automatically make it an 8-team playoff. Okay? 8 teams. Each Power 5 conference, their champion gets an automatic entry. Being a conference champion will get you an automatic entry. Automatic. Okay? So you'd have the ACC champion, automatically gets in. SEC champion, automatically gets in. The Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12 champions automatically get in. Okay? So that's 5 spots. Those are automatic. Okay? Automatic. If you win your conference title, you automatically get in. Okay? Then I think you should have a, like one for the non-Power 5 conferences. For like the Boise States of the world and the, not FAU, not Florida Atlantic, is it UCF? No, it's not the one Charlie Strong's coaching at. It's the one that Josh Heupel's coaching at. I believe they have right now the longest win streak in the nation, undefeated last year, and if I am incorrect, I may be mistaken, but I believe they're still undefeated this year. That would give them a chance. They should get in. An undefeated, non-Power 5 conference, like the Boise States of the world, the Hawaii when they popped up there for a little bit, the UCFs, those type of schools that are undefeated, and they should have an opportunity in. That way you could have your Cinderella story, and we do away with the whole thing of people were like, well, Boise State would have won the national championship if they got any respect. Okay, put them in. So there you'd have 6 total. And I'm not saying every single year you have to have a non-Power 5 conference team. Just if you have a team that is undefeated, and I don't mean undefeated playing, just undefeated. If you're undefeated or maybe 1 loss, I can see that. But don't just say, oh, we automatically have to have 1 in, and then you have a year where they're all 2 or 3 loss teams. So that would give us 6 if a non-Power 5 conference team has with certain requirements to get in. And then you can have the at-larges, like let's say last year with a 1-loss Alabama team that didn't even play for their conference championship. Yeah, didn't play, not even best team in your conference, but you're the best team in the nation. Not the best team in your conference, but the best team in your nation. Not the best team in your conference. Didn't win your conference championship. But, so this would eliminate that talk. Okay? Like a 1-loss Alabama team. That would give them, or let's say, stuff like that. Or let's say this year, if OU and West Virginia both were undefeated, both completely undefeated, and then let's say that, and the way the schedule works out this year, OU and West Virginia are playing the last game of the regular season, and then we have the Big 12 championship. So let's say both those teams are undefeated going into that last game of the season, and hypothetically speaking, let's say OU loses to West Virginia last game of the season, but they're the two best teams in the Big 12, so they play each other again, and OU beats West Virginia in the Big 12 championship game, so they each have one loss. They each lost to each other. OU would get in because of the fact that they're the conference champion. Then that would give the chance for West Virginia to step up. Or let's say like Oregon and USC are back. Or this year, let's say Washington State and Oregon are battling it out, and it's something similar with them. That would give them the chance. Or Ohio State, Michigan. Their only losses are to each other. Let's say that, that would give a couple at-large teams a bid. Okay? 8-team playoff, and people are saying, it's pushing the season back. It's pushing the season back. A lot of these teams that play in the playoff now have roughly a month off. A lot of these teams have roughly a month off from their conference championship game to when they play in the New Year's Day or the bowl games, because they're not playing till January. A lot of these teams' final game of the season is around Thanksgiving. So yeah, around Thanksgiving, maybe 1st of December, and then they're not playing till the 1st of January. Okay, so you could have the 18 playoff, season ends, you could put, season ends on this date, conference championships are on this date, let's say, first weekend in December, okay, and then you could have the champions take 2 weeks off, and in 2 weeks, and I'm sure the coaches will love it, because you hear coaches all the time, and the questions asked, hey, what do you think about rust? Your team's been da-da-da-da-da. So, 2 weeks off, and then you play the first round. That'll take you from 8 teams down to 4. Okay? 8 teams down to 4. And then you play after New Year's. You play the second round after New Year's, where the first round now is being played. Okay? So, you play in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later you play. And so your teams play the same time they're playing now in the second round game, and then they have the championship game at the same time. That's not extending the season. Yes, it's adding one more game. Okay? It is adding one more game. Alright? But, so be it. And I guarantee you, the good outweighs the bad with this. So, I think that's how it should be. Okay, now let me talk to the real fans. The real fans. The ones who share their opinion, and they say if you don't agree with them, then you're not a real fan. Really? That right there, if that's your only argument, or defense of your argument, is that if someone doesn't agree with your point, that they're not a real fan. Like if you come to me and say, hey, I think a 6-team playoff with, the 4-team playoff with, if you came to me and said, hey, I think instead of the 8-team, we have a 6-team playoff where you have essentially a play-in game, for 2 teams that are kind of on the bubble, kind of like the NCAA tournament has a play-in game. If you came to me and said that and all that, but if you just came and said, no, I'm a real fan, this is what I think should happen, if you don't agree, you're not a real fan. I'm all for having logical conversation, okay? Or if you come and say, hey, no, we need a 10-team, and this is why, cool. Okay, I'm not saying that my idea for the 8-team playoff is the end-all, be-all, and the only thing that matters. No, that's just my opinion. Okay? But I foolishly have joined some OU football fan groups on Facebook. And I say foolishly because the majority of them are always whining and griping and complaining. And there's a freshman that at the beginning of the year, the freshman comes in, they're like, oh, this is going to be the next Roy Williams. This is going to be the next great blah, blah, blah. This is going to be Brian Bosworth. He's going to be better than Brian Bosworth. And never played it down on a college football field against college athletes. Barely even taking a snap in practice. Yet you're sitting there, da, 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 da. And then one game, when the kid is banged up because he's undersized and being used out of position to play up on the line and trying to stuff runs, and the kid's undersized and he gets banged up and he's a little slow in a game, but he's toughing it out to play. And then they start harassing the kid online. Oh, he just needs to commit suicide. Yes, that has happened before. That has happened before. Where guys real fans on message boards have said that a player just needed to kill himself because they didn't live up to their expectations. For one thing, expectations that you have as an outsider of a kid, when you don't know the kid, and a lot of these people say this is their defense of it when they say that they know the kid. Well, I've done a lot more research than the average person. I know more than the average person. Really? Okay, how? What, you watched YouTube videos of the kid in high school? Yeah, those are highlight reels. You watched his highlight reels, okay? And you gotta think, if he's on defense, that's what? Maybe 40, 50, 60 plays a game that he's on defense, and you might see 4 or 5 a game? Highlight reels of him? Or you might have an entire game where he doesn't have a highlight reel, so you watch that, and you expect that kid to be doing that every play. So, yeah. But those guys, they are absolutely freaking ridiculous. Oh, and this is my favorite. Someone posts their opinion. A female posts their opinion, and a guy gets on there. Oh, and their opinion is, oh, I see all these people talking about what OU's defense needs to do to improve, yet you don't know the kids and all this and that. Why don't you get a job and get paid to coach the defense? And instead of attacking the person's argument, which is fine, they attack the individual. One guy actually went on there and said, well, I'm sure we know much more about football than a woman does. Who, really? And I even told the guy, I was like, yeah, typical tiny mind. You, instead of attacking the person's argument, which you can't, because you're too stupid to, you attack the individual and then act like you won. So, So, I need to apologize to Alabama fans for saying that y'all were horrible fans, which from what I have seen as an outsider looking into Alabama fans, I had seen that, which the last time OU and Alabama played, a female Alabama fan jumped on a bunch of OU college students to start kicking them and punching them because she was mad that OU was winning, and they were cheering, which was pissing her off because they were cheering for her team losing. So yeah, I need to apologize. And since I joined the groups, foolishly joined the OU groups on Facebook, I have seen that, there was a point in the season where OU was undefeated, and people were acting like we hadn't won a single freaking game. And not only that, fire Mike Stoops. And then once Mike Stoops is fired, they're all excited. I go, okay, so now the defense is just going to come out to be, what, the 85 Bears? Or, the 90s Buccaneers? So just because you got rid of the head football coach, or the defensive coordinator, So they were like, oh, yeah, the defense, we're going to shut people out and blah, 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 blah. And they're like, Ruffin McNeil's the answer. Okay, if Ruffin McNeil was the answer, how come he hasn't been a defensive coordinator for an extended period of time anywhere? But then, so the defense started to shabby. And these people who were supporting Ruffin McNeil can't just turn around and say, fire Ruffin McNeil. So these people were legitimately saying, and in their mind, it's 100% legit, saying, fire Lincoln Riley. They were screaming for Lincoln Riley to be fired. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Any team in college football and NFL football would gladly hire this guy. I guarantee, any team in college football or the NFL would gladly hire him like that as an offensive coordinator. Okay? And there are several NFL teams, and I guarantee you the majority of college football teams would hire him as their head coach. And there are quite a few NFL teams that will hire him as his head coach. Why do you think there are constant rumors that he's at the top of the list for the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns? Yet, you as OU fans are screaming for him to be fired. Yeah, okay. And also, I want to show OU fans your track record. The real fans, not all OU fans, but the real OU fans, your track record. Brent Venables was a defensive coordinator at the University of Oklahoma. Okay? Y'all were screaming for him to be fired because he could not defend the deep ball. He could stuff the run. He could stop the run. You know, which it's silly saying he could stop the run because he's not physically on the field doing it. But as a DC, he could coach them up and do all that to stuff the run and the short passes. But the deep ball, I mean, OU just could not defend the deep ball. So y'all were screaming for him to get fired. And when Mike Stoops came back and it was like, okay, so Mike Stoops' philosophy, he can defend the deep ball. Him and Brent Venables again will be that magic tandem. But I believe part of it was Brent Venables did not want to be a co-defensive coordinator. And then also all the fan outrage for him to be fired because he could not defend the deep ball. And what does Brent Venables do? Yeah, he only goes to Clemson and is the highest paid DC in the nation. DC's defensive coordinator is the highest paid defensive coordinator in the nation. And not only that, he's the best defense coordinator in the nation. And doesn't Clemson have a top 5 defense all the time and won a national championship with him? So, yeah. You know, go figure. Yet, OU fans wanted him fired. And a bunch of OU fans were talking about are talking about who possibly could be the new defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. A lot of them were like, we need Brent Venables back. I'm like, okay, this is the same fan base that's screaming for him to get fired. Now you're wanting him back because he's the answer. I don't get it. So, but hey, I'm at work. But yeah, those are just my opinions about football. So, and also, I just want to let you know it is 3:39 in the afternoon and Texas still sucks.